Bend an ear and listen to my version of a really solid Tennessee excursion. And when you hear the whistle blowing 8 to the bar, then you know that Tennessee is not very far. Shovel all the coal in, gotta keep it rolling. Woo woo, Chattanooga, there you are! My Tennessee excursion begins at what once was the Southern Railway's largest classification yard. And while it may not be the largest anymore, Norfolk Southern's DeButz Yard still holds its own as a place that is capable of handling every imaginable type of rail freight, including extra heavy loads from the good people over at Caterpillar. Boasting in a scale-shattering 250,000 pounds, it takes a lot of locomotives to move one of these monster bulldozers. Locomotives that will be fueled, refurbished, and refreshed over at Chattanooga's expansive engine shops. It's here that locomotives from many different railroads will find themselves being cleaned, refueled, and retooled so that when the next enormous shipment of Caterpillar construction equipment needs to be taken to the site, these locomotives will be railroad ready to get the job done. One more thing. You may be asking yourself why Union Pacific locomotives are heading into a Norfolk Southern facility. Well, that's a fine example of foreign power. These locomotives are running on the Norfolk Southern Railroad today, and someday Norfolk Southern trains will return the favor by running on the UP. Foreign power is an increasingly common sight on the Norfolk Southern, and nowhere is that exemplified more than right here in Chattanooga. Foreign power or not, at the end of the day, all the Norfolk Southern cares about is that their locomotives are well maintained so they're able to carry freight all across the system. And it's the men and women who work at Norfolk Southern's locomotive shops that make this possible. We've talked about locomotive repair, but now let's see the fruit of their labor at work. Coal trains are some of the heaviest on the road, so locomotives that haul them have to be in tip-top shape. Intermodal trains are some of the railroad's most profitable. It's paramount that these trains are not delayed, especially by mechanical problems. So, maintenance and repair shops work hard to ensure that these locomotives are some of the most reliable out there on the rails. Coffey's Cliff Overlook is one of the finest places to view a modern train yard in action. This also makes it one of the very best places to view yet another important role that locomotives play on the railroad, working the yard. With dozens of trains moving in and out of the yard, it takes an enormous fleet of capable and reliable locomotives to move freight between various trains. Since DeButz is a classification yard, it's the job of these locomotives to take various cuts of freight cars and shove them to the proper track for sorting and eventual transportation either out locally or to be transported nationally out on the main line. And just when you thought this scene couldn't get any more chaotic, dozens of through trains are added to the picture, belonging to both the CSX and both the Norfolk Southern and BNSF railroads. From our front row seat, it's clear to see that DeButz Yard is a flurry of activity. With the onslaught of arriving and departing freights, through trains, and the never-ending switching action. It's a rare moment when there are no trains in sight. But when the switching is done and trains are ready to roll, how, and more importantly, where do they make their exit from Debutts out onto the main line? Well, let's go find out. At a glance, Citico Junction, just north of Chattanooga's Debutts Yard, seems like a peaceful and tranquil place. But rest assured, that tranquility won't last long. The first rumblings of the chaos to come emanate from this lone ST-40. You know, a lot of people would probably prefer the whimsical sounds of Morning Bird's song over the shrill shriek of a P5 horn. But then again, I guess I'm not most people. On the one hand, I was thrilled by this engineer's friendly salutations, but on the other, I was perplexed about why they had stopped their train. Then I remembered where I was. Citico, one of the busiest junctions on the Norfolk Southern. At the confluence of the C&O and TP District, Knoxville West End District, and the famed Atlanta North District, Citico Junction is the northern funnel in the Chattanooga, Debutts Yard, and Point South. It's also a major through point for all of Chattanooga's local trains, which carry freight to and from Chattanooga Industries to Debutts Yard for sorting and eventual transport nationally via mainline trains. It's clear that Citico Junction is part of the upper echelons of railfanning locations, from the sheer scale of the train volumes and varieties that you can see here, to the absolutely stunning lighting that can be found in the early to mid-afternoon, all under an emerald green backdrop of fully fledged summertime foliage. It just doesn't get much better than this. From trains charging out of the yard, or those that are lumbering in, the sheer scale of the operations here are astonishing. It seems as just as one train passes, another one is rounding the bend. The mundarity of intermodal trains got you down? Fret not, my friend. Citico Junction is one of the most visually stimulating places on the railroad. Just take these boxcars, for instance. They're decorated like they're about to attend New York City's Met Gala. They have the looks, but maybe they should rethink their musical careers. They're shrieking and moaning like a Yoko Ono song. Speaking of noise, there's no better place to hear the laboring roar of a locomotive than Citico Junction. And if you're still not impressed by the colors of the consists and roaring of the rails, then maybe the enormous scale of rail freight will do it for you. Just look at the size of those logs. Back in the day, many of those logs would have been burned for fuel, but nowadays we have more efficient ways to both produce and transport our energy. Yes indeed, if you take anything away from this video, it should be that Citico Junction is at both the crossroads of the Norfolk Southern and the crossroads of everything the Norfolk Southern transports across its vast railroad network. A network only made possible thanks to the existence of junctions like Citico. You know, railfanning locations remind me an awful lot of coffee shops. You have to have a variety of flavors to please everyone. Certainly, you could always go simple with the usual manifest malarkey. But for those seeking a little more, shall I say, pumpkin spice, one needs to look no further than our old and familiar friend, the BNSF coal train. You know, not only is this the third time we've seen the coal train in this video alone, it's also the third time it's been featured in a Mainline South video in general. It's practically the channel mascot at this point, and what a mascot it would be with its excellent DPU displays. I've often seen 3 to 4 sets of mid-train locomotives, always on maximum power, doing everything they can to help move this heavy hauler. You know, for such a common sight here in the Atlanta-Chattanooga railfanning scene, I wish I knew where this train was actually headed. If you're familiar with its route, origin, and destination, make sure to comment below. I'd love to finally put an end to the mystery of the coal train. You know, for the wandering railroad enthusiast, you may find that many of Chattanooga's biggest and best trains are cloaked in the fogs of mystery. Fortunately for us railroad enthusiasts, one needs not possess the sleuthing skills of Sherlock Holmes to determine what direction and destinations trains such as this manifest are jetting off to. With the help of Google Maps and a little bit of research, even the most unfamiliar of rail fans will be able to form a rough sense of what's going on trackside. Having the propensity to plot and scheme can lead to wonderful railroad discoveries. Chattanooga's DeButz Yard, Coffee Cliff Overlook, and even Citico Junction were all stumbled upon while researching for this trip. The vines of railfanning research bear particularly zesty fruit, and no greater testament to this than Citico Junction. Like peanut butter is to jelly, the Citico to railfan combination is the stuff of legend. I don't think I've ever been to a more fruitful railfanning location, and I don't think I ever want to leave either. But that's the beauty of a place like Chattanooga. Just like that peanut butter and jelly combination never gets old, neither does Chattanooga, Tennessee. And just when you think you've done it all here at Citico, the city will throw something even zestier your way. Just northeast of our beloved Citico Junction, nestled at the top of Chattanooga's King Point neighborhood, the curious railfan will find a small access road which leads trackside, the tracks of the Atlanta North and Knoxville districts. It's a happening place here, as three of the South's biggest cities exchange commerce. From the highest priority hotshots, to the loaded down lumbering of massive mainline manifests. This few-mile stretch of railroad, which sees the Knoxville West End District and the Atlanta North District merge together, forms a railroad superhighway leading into the beckoning arms of Chattanooga, Tennessee. The volumes of commerce transported on this line are so large that DPU power is practically a guarantee. Another advantage of railfanning on this key central artery is that trains from all over the nation have to pass through this small segment of track. Trains that may have a rare heritage unit in their lash-up. Sure, the history buffs among us are raising a fuss. After all, the Missouri Pacific isn't part of the Norfolk Southern family. Well, you're right, but that isn't a Norfolk Southern heritage unit. This locomotive belongs to the golden-clad transcontinentals themselves, the Union Pacific. Only one of 6 heritage units in the Union Pacific fleet, this locomotive pays homage to the legendary Missouri Pacific Railroad. And although it was acquired in 1982 as the number board indicates, here in Chattanooga at least, the Missouri Pacific Railroad is still doing its part to keep the nation's railways running steadfast and true. But don't think the heritage hysteria ends here. Just a few miles up the line, let's give the NS a chance to show off its history. Like the Missouri Pacific is to the UP, so is Conrail to the NS. A proud history and a proud legacy to carry on. In carrying on that legacy, the trains of Chattanooga certainly do. Locomotive the locomotive and freight car the freight car, the NS operates this line with pride. special treatment indeed. But if you take anything away from this video, it should be that Chattanooga, Tennessee is the very pinnacle of Southern rail fanning. From quantity to quality to sheer variety, this Tennessee titan of trains holds its own among America's finest rail fanning destinations. Folkston is fine and Cordele is pretty cool, and Atlanta is alright from time to time. But if you long for trains with that Tennessee Valley twist, all you need do is keep your ears out and listen for the friendly chime of the Chattanooga Choo-Choo.